Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our bubble. My name is Katie. I really appreciate you guys being here with me today. Today we're going to be making a one-pot meal. We are making a chuck roast. So we're going to have potatoes and onions, and I picked some carrots out of the garden, so we're going to throw those in as well. We are doing it in the roasting pan today. I normally would do this in a crock pot. It does take around 8 to 9 hours to cook, but the chuck roast this one is just too big for my crock pot. So we're going to cook it in the roasting pan. We're also going to check on my broody chicken and pull her off the nest and move her. I thought you guys might just want to come with me to do that. This is one of the chores I do a few times a day right now, just trying to get her out of being broody. And then we are going to make cherry hand pies for dessert this evening. So let's get on it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to get a bunch of water to put in our roasting oven. Now, if you have a roasting oven, they do come with a rack. We are not using the rack today. First thing we need to put in is our water and then our potatoes. We are using quite a bit of water. We want to make sure that everything gets covered with the water, just like using a crock pot. So we may need more than that. Now, this particular chuck roast will feed my husband and I for a couple of nights. So we're going to put in enough potatoes for 2 evenings meals, which would be 4. These potatoes needed to be used anyway. They're starting to chit, but they are still firm. If they're starting to root out or chit and they're really soft and squishy, don't use those. You need to go on and throw those in the compost. They're too far gone. The problem is after they start getting really soft and squishy, even though you've cooked them, they can make you a little sick. And I do speak from experience. Oh. Goodness, this potato's awful looking. It's all bruisey. I think we'll skip that one. We'll give it to the chickens. They'll enjoy it. I did decide to go on and peel an extra potato, just in case. Make sure that there's enough. Something else we're going to do with these before we throw them into our roasting pan is, I did not wash the potatoes before I peeled them, so we're going to rinse them off real quick. Now we want to set these in first because we do want these to go under our chuck roast, because if there is any potato that floats up and sticks out of the top of the water, it'll turn black and it just looks really bad. All right. Chickens. I've already cleaned up our carrots. We're just going to cut the end off of these. And actually, I think I'm going to cut them in half. Look at that one. Scatter them in the bottom. Now, when making this chuck roast, I really like to put the potatoes in with it. That's just how I was brought up. They take on the flavor of the meat and the other veggies that are in there. We are going to be putting a little red onion in as well. The onions and the carrots, I think, are a necessity. Even over, we are going to put a little Worcestershire sauce, however you pronounce it. I don't think anyone knows. But your true flavor really does come from the carrots and the onions that are in it. So now that all the carrots are good and in, yeah, that looks good. We're going to go on and put our piece of meat in. Now, normally with a steak, I do wash all of my meat, regardless of where it comes from, just because there can be little bone fragments. Maybe the saw wasn't really super sharp, or you just never know. So I always wash it off. Now, if you're going to cook like a regular steak, like a T-bone or a ribeye or something like that, after I wash it off, I do pat it dry with paper towels. It does need to be dry. This does not. That's not a huge concern because we are putting this in water. All right. Now we're going to cut up a little onion to throw in there. We're going to cut up the whole onion. Then I've cut it into just thick slices and cut them in half. And I just distribute them here, there, and everywhere. We want to make sure we get some on top too. If your roast is a little smaller and you are choosing to cook it like in the crock pot, you may want to only use half an onion. Not quite as many potatoes. Depends on how many people you're feeding. Now, I am going to add around 3/4 of a cup of our Worcestershire sauce. Always try to make sure to get some on top of our meat as well. Fresh black pepper. All over the top of our meat, depending on how much pepper you like. We really like pepper. Now, our Worcestershire sauce does have salt in it. The salt I am not putting on top of our meat. I'm putting it in the water so that it can break down and our meat and potatoes can absorb it. And we are putting in about a tablespoon. And we need a touch more water. Now what we want to do is to fill it up so that it just comes over the meat. We do want some on top exposed. So that's good. about 3/4 of the way covered. We just have basically the middle is exposed. We're going to put our lid on. We're going to turn our roaster on around 200 to 250. We're going to do around 225. Like I said, I'm getting this started a little later than I wanted to. Yeah. Now, this does need to cook for around 8 to 9 hours. So that puts, it's 9:45. That puts us around 6:30 to 7:30 getting this done, and that's perfect. Now that our roast is in, we are going to go out and take our broody chicken off her nest. We are a little noisy. You have chickens, you know, they all basically like to lay in the same nest. So they're irritated because she won't get up. So I do have gloves. My chickens are not overly friendly. And she likes to try and bite me. And when a full-grown chicken nips at you, I think it hurts. Okay, just a minute. Oh my. Let's open this door. Okay, here, move. Move. See her puff up? She's not happy. No egg. Now what I'm going to end up doing is taking her down the hill away from the nests. Don't get me wrong. She comes back up. She gets back on the nest. We do the same thing in the evening. My biggest concern is it is supposed to be around 95 today, and we are still extremely humid. So I am more concerned with her drinking and eating. She will take herself out of broodiness. At least this has been my experience with them for the last 20 years. I did let one chicken sit on her eggs and make babies, but I don't want to deal with babies right now. I do end up taking them away from the mothers. Okay, enough. Sit, lay. Are you done? Well, it's awful big ruckus you're making. Oh my goodness. So we're going to take this one down the hill. Come on, get your drink. She will run pretty much right back up to the coop, but for the last couple days, she has been stopping to eat and drink. So yesterday, she drank down here. I like to take them a distance from the coop just so they get a little exercise in. She's over here nipping at the grass now. My biggest concern with broodiness is that they're eating and drinking. And like I said, it's supposed to be just so horribly hot today. So make sure she's doing okay. Now that we dealt with our chicken, we're going to get to our cherry hand pies. I did do some other things as well. It is a little later in the afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock. So we need to get this going. First thing we're going to do is to make our pie crust. We are making just a traditional pie crust that normally you would use shortening or lard, maybe back in the day. But today, shortening is kind of a poo-poo word, and lard, I've made traditional crust with lard, and I could taste the lard, and the people that I served it to could taste the lard and just didn't care for it. So we are going to use butter. And butter is something that everyone, for the most part, has readily available. So the first thing we're going to start with is a cup of flour. Then we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt. Excuse me, half a teaspoon. Gotta watch that salt. Then we're going to get out our butter. We're adding 1/3 of a cup plus a tablespoon of butter. I do not have the butter out yet. It is important when making pie crust that all of your ingredients stay nice and cold. Now, matter of fact, once we make the crust, when we are making the filling, I'm going to have to put the crust back in the refrigerator so it stays nice and cold. Okay. Most of the time your butter will tell you what 1/3 of a cup is on the label. That's really super handy. So we want to go 1 tablespoon past that. And then to make it easier on us, we're going to cut our butter up into pieces. Now we're going to take our pastry blender. We're going to incorporate all of our butter into our dough. You can also do this in a mixer as well. That's perfectly fine. To be honest, I just didn't feel like dirtying my mixer for this little of dough. If you do not have a pastry blender, a fork works just as well. You might just have to work a little harder at it with a fork. So I want to make sure that my cold butter is nice and chopped up in my flour. And then we are going to add ice cold water, a tablespoon at a time. We are not using anywhere near all of this, but I wanted to make sure that it was nice and cold. I actually did put a couple of ice cubes in it to chill it down even more. Okay, we are pretty well incorporated here. So now we want to add some water. We're going to go on and put in 2 tablespoons and then see where we are from there. I think I may switch over to the fork at this point. So we want it to get to where our dough kind of looks like a bowl of white peas. You just got a bowl of little balls. I think we'll add 1 more. Just want to make sure that everything is moist. We don't want any dry flour. One way you can test this is to actually squeeze your flour. And this is falls apart a little bit, so we're going to keep going. We want it to hold together when we squeeze it. I think we need 1 more tablespoon. That, I think, will get us. So this looks more like what we want with the 4 tablespoons. If you look down in there, there's not a lot of loose flour in the bottom, very little actually, and that's what we want. So
Now we are going to mush it together. Now what we want is for the ball to form and it not to be too crumbledy. I'm not sure if that's a real word. We want it to hold together. See, I have a nice little dough ball. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're going to throw it in the refrigerator. And that way it stays nice and cold, because actually the heat from your hands will heat up the dough enough that it can make it hard to work with. Now that that's finished, I am working with fresh cherries, so they're going to have to be pitted. I do not know a fun, easy way to pit cherries. I just cut them in half, give it a twist, and then just dig out my pit. This is the most time-consuming part of all of this. You can buy canned cherries, or if you want, a lot of people just will use jam in their hand pies. If you don't want to mess with dealing with the whatever fruit. Wanted to tell you why cherries are good for you. And I did not realize this. There is over 1,000 different varieties of cherry just in the United States. I just find that fascinating. But cherries, because of their bright red color, so that tells us that they are high in antioxidants and vitamin A. They are also high in vitamin C and vitamin E. Cherry juice is used to help control gout, and it can help ease the pain of arthritis. In case you do not know what gout is the buildup of uric acid in your muscles or in the body, and it tends to settle in the feet and the knees. So cherry juice can help relieve that uric acid that builds up in your joints. Cherries can also help you sleep. They actually have a little bit of melatonin in them, as well as serotonin and tryptophan. Now, tryptophan is an ingredient that is also found in turkey. We have our skillet heating up. The cherries stained my hands worse than the beets. I'm really surprised. I look sickly. My fingers are purple. So we're going to throw our cherries in. We're going to throw in 2 tablespoons of butter, which this is the rest of the butter left over from the stick we just used. We're going to get this melted down. We do have our skillet on medium heat. Throwing in about 1/2 of a teaspoon of almond extract. I love the way this stuff smells. Oh, I could use that as an air freshener. Little squirt of lemon. Just a tad. Or 1/2 cup of sugar. Just giving the cherries just a light tap to help break them down a little bit and make them juice. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of our cold water. We're going to do just a tablespoon of the cornstarch, but you do need to kind of stir it around in a little bit of water. Oh, it smells so good. Now, we need to let this cook for a little bit while we're just kind of gradually stirring it around until it thickens almost like a jelly. We're still pretty watery. How we can tell when we're done is when I do this, if it doesn't fill in immediately, we're good to go. It's a little slower. We're getting there. Nice and slow. That's what we want. So we're going to turn the heat off. And we are actually going to transfer this to another bowl because it needs to chill a little more and it will thicken when it chills up a little more. The hardest part of this is these are so heavy. This would be perfect for fake blood at Halloween. That's delicious. I'm actually going to put this in the freezer for a few minutes because we do need it to cool. It took about 10 minutes to cook. I straightened up a little bit. Our cherries are still in the freezer for the moment. I am using a piece of parchment paper on my cutting board just to make life easier. So now we're going to roll out our dough. Just use a little bit of extra flour. Well, maybe. Get a rolling pin. Now the goal here is to make 4. We need to turn our oven on 400. $375 to 400. Okay. I think my house is a little warm. My dough is getting soft. Okay, we're going to put a little less in this one. Smush it down with our fork. We do need to put a couple little slits in the top. Those are not just for decoration. They are so that it will let out a little steam from the fruit filling. Okay, I'm trying to do this quickly at this point because my dough is getting a little warm. because we do not have central heat and air. I actually have the air conditioner off while I'm filming. Okay. One more real quick. I'm so glad I used the parchment paper. I'm actually going to have to throw these back in the refrigerator for a few minutes, let them chill down. They're a little messy, but it's all about what they taste like. While we're waiting on our oven to finish heating and our pies to cool down just a little more, we're going to make our egg wash for the top of them. All we're going to do is take a cold egg, and we're going to add about a teaspoon of water to it. And then we want to stir it up. Okay, our oven just went off, so it's all warmed up. We're going to get our egg wash on these really quick, along with a little additional sugar on top. Throw them right in the oven. These will bake for 20 to 30 minutes, or until, golden brown, whichever comes first. I pulled our ham pies out of the oven a little bit ago. They look awesome. I mean, they're not very pretty, but they look tasty. So I'm going to try one real quick. It's good. I couldn't imagine how putting jam in them could make them taste any better. That's delicious. The crust is really light and flaky. And look, no dripping. So we did a good job with these. They're not very pretty, but they're delicious.
Hey.
Hmm.
Hey.
It's close to 8:30 at night here. It's starting to get dark. Dinner was a huge success. The roast turned out great, very flavorful. Really didn't need to add anything to it. The hand pies, my husband ate two, and I ate one and nibbled on another one. They're excellent. So we will definitely be making these in the fall with some fresh apples. That would be delicious. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. And please like, please subscribe. And I really hope to see you on the next one. Bye.